Fire season, it's looming as a bad one. I mean, there's one in the NT today. What's the threat that the briefing journalists are getting is grass fires could be really common. Does that mean a threat to property in particular?
Yeah, we've actually been preparing for the coming bushfire season since about February this year, even before the current disaster season was over, because we knew it was likely that temperatures were going to be changing. We were hitting hotter and drier weather, and that does look like what's going to happen. In fact, just today I've had another briefing from our emergency management agency and the national firefighting body about what lies ahead, and grass fires is certainly a risk this year, and that is really a result of all that heavy rain that we've had over recent years, and that has caused lots of grass to be growing on the sides of roads, in fields, and yeah, I mean, that's a particular risk for the agriculture sector and farm properties and things like that, but also some of our roads and supply chains are at risk of that kind of thing. So there's some really good work being done by the states and territories around preparation. We've certainly been making sure that we've got aircraft that are needed on board and ready to go. But we do face a much more significantly fire season than what we've seen for a while.
Where's most at risk?
We're actually expecting the summer outlook to be provided in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll have a clearer, but as you say, there are already fires happening in the Northern Territory.
Given where the fuel loads are, presumably you've been told if you're preparing now and burn-offs and stuff, where the most...
Yeah, look, I think in this calendar year, we remain a bit concerned about northern New South Wales because there are parts of it that are sort of starting to go through drought conditions, and that always contributes.
Straight off the back of
floods, yeah. I mean, it depends on which part of northern New South Wales, but also even places like Central Queensland, North Queensland are drier than usual, southwest WA, and then into the new year, we'd be looking more at places like Victoria and Tasmania.
We always hear, it's usually once we're in the midst of the season, the percentage of burns they're able to conduct, back burning. How are they progressing? Are we going to get, I know it's usually state by state, but sort of, you know, is Queensland looking like 80 or 90 or New South Wales lower? Do you have any rough figures?
I don't have the precise figures at hand, but I do know that the bad weather and the moisture that remains in a lot of the country has made back burning and hazard reduction a bit harder than usual. So I know, for example...
They're a bit behind.
That they are a bit behind because of the weather conditions. And I know the New South Wales government has thrown extra resources at this as one example to try to do as much as they possibly can, because, of course, we can't be doing that kind of hazard reduction once we do get to that hot, dry weather. But unfortunately, the wet ground and the wet weather has made that hazard reduction a bit slower than what we would have liked. But I'm confident that all the states and territories are throwing everything at it in the meantime.
People out there will get prepared, do fire plans, plan for the worst, hope for the best. But some might not be able to afford insurance. Is this a huge economic, could be crisis? Because people are being priced out of it over floods. There's a cyclone fires as well. How big an issue is this?
I think insurance affordability and accessibility is a massive issue facing a lot of the country, and it's an issue that's been coming for a long time. I guess I first encountered it being a Queenslander in North Queensland, where that's been an issue for a very long time.
So the $10 billion cyclone fund, just for that area, highlights that you can't just have the government riding to the rescue.
I think that's right. I mean, what I've learned in this job is that there are many parts of the country where insurance is either unaffordable or simply unavailable because insurers won't insure the risk. But I do think we've got to be cautious about setting up some kind of national reinsurance fund, because we are talking big dollars, as you're saying. But one of the things that we're doing in the meantime, you will have seen that our government's been investing a lot more in disaster mitigation to try to reduce the risk of floods and fires, whether it be flood levees, drainage improvements, bushfire evacuation centres. If we can reduce the risk of disasters and the loss of and the damage that is incurred, that should flow through to premiums, and we've already called for insurers to be delivering on that.
Then there's the debate over where people live.
There is.
Which is another part of it. I wanted to ask you finally, though, on Israel getting a bit of attention today. Labor now describing these areas as occupied territories. The corollary on that is that Israel should leave the occupied territories, parking the negotiations over peace, that they should just leave because they shouldn't be there. And Labor's agreeing with the international terminology of illegal, so they should just go.
Well, I'll leave it for Penny Wong as the Foreign Minister to address the specifics of this, but I haven't seen anything that Penny or other ministers have said that suggests that.
Doesn't that fit in with, if you're saying these are illegal, shouldn't you just go regardless of any peace negotiations? Because you've agreed to this at Cabinet, right? So you must have...
Yeah, but again, I do want to leave it to Penny to fully explain the motivations and the reasoning here. It is her space, but we think that that this is an adjustment that is justifiable in the circumstances, and you know, we continue to support a two-state solution, and that's the position we've held for some time.
Right, but it's not. You're clarifying. It's not that as a result of being considered illegal by Australia that Israel should leave. It's still part of the whole negotiation.
I certainly haven't heard any suggestion that that's the corollary of this. Okay. And as I say, I'll leave it for Penny to explain further.
Minister, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Tom.